Imagine living inside a mind that never stops thinking, feeling, or analyzing. A mind that wants to help everyone but struggles to help itself. A mind that sees 10 steps ahead but freezes on step 1. That's the experience many INFJs live with every day. INFJ stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. It's known as the rarest personality type in the Myers-Briggs system. But what makes INFJs feel so different isn't just the label. It's the way their inner world operates. To outsiders, they might seem quiet, thoughtful or mysterious. But inside, there's a storm of thoughts, emotions, and contradictions that often feel too big to contain. Being an INFJ means you're deeply intuitive. You see meaning where others see randomness. You pick up emotional undercurrents in a room without anyone saying a word. You care about people to the point of exhaustion, and yet, you often feel completely alone. This video is not just about personality traits. It's about what it actually feels like to be trapped inside that complex INFJ mind. Because for all its beauty, creativity, insight, and compassion, the INFJ brain can also be a difficult place to live. Today, we'll break down 6 powerful ways that INFJs often feel mentally and emotionally stuck. These are not random struggles. They're consistent patterns that show up across INFJ lives. Whether you are one, know one, or want to understand one better, this is your look inside the INFJ experience. Let's start with the first way INFJs often feel trapped. Way number 1. Racing thoughts and overanalysis. One of the most exhausting parts of being an INFJ is the constant flood of thoughts. The INFJ mind rarely, if ever, goes quiet. It plays out conversations that haven't happened yet. It revisits mistakes from years ago. It builds entire futures in minute detail, only to tear them down again seconds later. This is not just typical overthinking. It's a deep-layered form of mental simulation. INFJs don't just imagine a situation, they feel it, analyze it, and emotionally rehearse it from every angle. They run what-if scenarios for days. What if I say this and they say that? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I hurt someone by accident? This inner activity is part of their intuitive process. INFJs use something called introverted intuition, which works by connecting patterns and ideas below the surface. They don't always know how they came to a conclusion, but the insight just arrives, and it often feels correct. The problem is, this internal system never turns off. So while others can brush off a social interaction and move on, INFJs might relive it 5 or 10 times. They'll analyze the tone of voice, the facial expression, the timing of a sentence. Did they sound distant? Did I say too much? Did they feel unheard? The questions spiral. And it doesn't stop with people. INFJs overanalyze choices, projects, creative work, even their own feelings. They want to make decisions that are thoughtful and ethical, but this goal can trap them in a loop of hesitation. They worry about what could go wrong, how it could affect others, and whether they're even the right person to make the choice. This intense mental activity can feel like a cage. INFJs often want to act but get stuck in analysis. They know time is passing, but their minds won't let them take the next step. Over time, this can lead to burnout, frustration, and even physical exhaustion. The truth is, INFJs aren't overthinkers because they want to be. It's how their mind is wired. But without the right outlets or coping tools, that endless thought cycle can feel like being locked in a room with no off switch. Way number 2, emotional absorption and overwhelm. Another major struggle for INFJs is emotional overload. It doesn't come from their own feelings alone. It comes from everyone around them. INFJs have an intense ability to absorb emotions. If someone is angry, anxious, dull, or excited, they don't just notice it. They often feel it in their own body. This emotional absorption can happen instantly. Walking into a room, an INFJ might feel a wave of tension without knowing why. Later, they might realize it was coming from someone else's bad mood or silent stress. The INFJ didn't imagine it, they picked it up. This gift can be a strength. It makes INFJs excellent listeners, counselors, and friends. They understand people deeply, often without needing words. But it also means they carry emotional weight that doesn't belong to them. Over time, this can become overwhelming. Many INFJs report feeling drained after social events, not because they dislike people, but because they soaked up too much emotion. They may come home feeling heavy, restless, or confused. Sometimes they don't even know what emotion they're feeling because it's not theirs. This confusion creates inner tension. The INFJ mind tries to make sense of feelings that don't match their own life. They might feel grief when nothing bad happened, or anxiety for no clear reason. The truth is, they've absorbed those emotions from someone else, and now their mind is trying to sort it out. To make things harder, INFJs often feel responsible for how others feel. If someone around them is in pain, they can't easily ignore it. They want to fix it, soothe it. This creates emotional pressure, especially when the INFJ is already struggling inside. Without clear boundaries, INFJs can lose track of where they end and others begin. This emotional blur makes them feel stretched thin, emotionally lost, and even resentful. But because they're deeply empathetic, they also feel guilty for pulling away. This emotional overwhelm isn't weakness. It's the side effect of deep empathy and a finely tuned emotional radar. But if left unmanaged, it can trap the INFJ in a loop of emotional confusion, fatigue, and even burnout. Way number 3, bottling up emotions, then exploding. INFJs are emotional beings, but most people wouldn't guess it right away. That's because many INFJs are quiet about their feelings until they're not. One of the most frustrating ways INFJs feel trapped is by holding in their emotions for too long, only to have them burst out suddenly and powerfully. It usually starts with small things. A comment that stings. A decision they disagree with. A moment where they feel unheard. INFJs often stay quiet during these situations. They tell themselves it's not the right time. They don't want to start conflict. They want to keep the peace. But the feelings don't disappear. They go inward. INFJs process pain silently, and they tend to hold on to it. They think about it over and over, trying to understand it, trying to justify it, trying to make it make sense. But as these emotions build, so does the pressure. Instead of expressing frustration right away, INFJs often suppress it. They might tell themselves they're overreacting, or that the other person didn't mean it that way, or that being upset is selfish. They carry that weight quietly until they can't anymore. Then comes the explosion. It can be anger, tears, distance, or a sudden confrontation that catches everyone off guard. To the outside world, this reaction may seem extreme or unexpected. But for the INFJ, it's been building for days, weeks, or even longer. This emotional bottling is often tied to their deep desire to protect relationships. INFJs care deeply about people and will go to great lengths to avoid hurting others. But by avoiding small confrontations, they risk bigger ones down the line. After the emotional outburst, many INFJs feel guilt and shame. They worry they've scared someone off. They replay what they said and how they said it. They criticize themselves for not being calm. This self-blame makes the cycle worse, leading them to bottle up again in the future. It's not that INFJs want to hide their emotions. Many times, they just don't feel safe enough to show them, or they fear they'll be misunderstood. But without healthy ways to express themselves along the way, INFJs end up carrying too much. The result is emotional pressure that feels like being sealed in a bottle until the cork finally blows off. Way number 4. Struggling with perfectionism and mental paralysis. INFJs want to do things right, not just good enough, but meaningful, precise, and right for everyone involved. This perfectionist streak is one of their strengths. It drives them to be thoughtful, responsible, and deeply ethical. But it's also one of the ways they feel mentally stuck and overwhelmed. For an INFJ, any project or decision comes with layers of meaning. They don't just ask, "What should I do?" They ask, "What's the long-term impact of this choice? Who could it affect? What message does it send? Will I regret it later?" These are good questions, but too many at once can paralyze action. This mental overload is common for INFJs who want to create something important. Whether it's a piece of writing, a conversation, or a career move, they often struggle to get started. They want to wait until they have the full picture, until everything feels aligned, until they're sure it will go well. But that perfect moment rarely comes. So instead of starting, INFJs overplan. They research endlessly. They rehearse ideas in their head. They write and rewrite before the first sentence even hits the page. This cycle leads to procrastination, not because they're lazy, but because they care too much. And when INFJs do push forward, they often set the bar impossibly high. One mistake can feel like a failure. One missed detail can feel like they've let someone down. Their fear of not meeting their own standards can stop them before they begin. This form of paralysis is mental, emotional, and even physical. INFJs may feel frozen, unable to move forward even when they want to. They may beat themselves up for not doing enough, even when their mind is racing non-stop. The world often tells INFJs to just start or don't overthink it. But that advice doesn't match the depth of their inner process. To the INFJ, each step carries emotional and ethical weight. They don't just want to act, they want to act with meaning. Still, that high standard can become a trap. It holds them in place, replaying all the ways they might mess up rather than allowing them to try. And trying, for the INFJ, is often the hardest part of all. Way number 5. Feeling alone. Even in a crowd. Perhaps one of the most painful ways INFJs feel trapped is the sense of being disconnected, even when they're surrounded by people. This isn't just social awkwardness or introversion. It's a deep, aching sense that no one truly sees or understands them. INFJs crave meaningful connection. They want more than small talk and surface-level relationships. They want conversations that go beneath the noise, discussions about life, purpose, emotion, values. When that depth is missing, they can feel isolated, even in familiar settings. This is especially hard because INFJs are often the ones people open up to. They're great listeners. They're supportive and thoughtful. But while others share their stories, INFJs rarely feel comfortable doing the same. They might nod along, offer comfort, and still feel emotionally unseen. This emotional gap builds slowly. INFJs may go through life surrounded by people who like them, but don't really know them. Friends who enjoy their company, but don't understand their internal world. Co-workers who praise their work, but miss their deeper values. Even family members who love them, but can't quite connect with their quiet complexity. Over time, INFJs may stop trying to share. They retreat into their own mind, not out of coldness, but because it feels safer. They write in journals. They daydream. They create inner worlds to live in. But these inner spaces, while comforting, can also deepen the feeling of loneliness. Even when they do try to connect, INFJs often hold back. They're slow to trust. They don't open up easily. They test the emotional waters first. And if someone doesn't respond with depth or interest, the INFJ might shut down completely. This pattern makes friendships feel one-sided. INFJs might support others deeply, but feel they're carrying everything alone. And because they rarely complain or ask for help, others don't realize how lonely they really are. What's most heartbreaking is that many INFJs are surrounded by people who care, but still feel alone. That sense of being unseen, misunderstood, or too different becomes a quiet weight they carry daily. It's not about being liked. It's about being known. And until INFJs find those rare connections where they can show their full self, the feeling of isolation stays with them, even in a room full of people. Number 6. Facing existential anxiety and feeling stuck in the present, one of the most confusing and painful ways INFJs feel trapped is through something many people don't even notice: existential anxiety. INFJs don't just think about what's happening now, they think about what it means. They ask big questions, often without answers. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Is this really the life I want to live? These thoughts can come in the middle of daily routines. While doing dishes, scrolling a phone, or lying in bed, an INFJ mind might suddenly drift into deep, unsettling territory. This isn't a passing worry. For INFJs, these questions can sit heavy in their chest. They feel a strong inner calling, a sense that life is supposed to mean something big. But they don't always know what that big thing is. This creates tension. They want to move forward, but toward what? They want to make a difference, but how? The result is often a deep sense of frustration. INFJs feel like they have potential, ideas, and insight, but they don't know how to express it or where to begin. They might feel like they're wasting time, even when they're doing well. Like something's missing, even when nothing's wrong. This becomes especially difficult when daily life feels routine or dull. The INFJ brain wants growth, depth, and purpose. But bills need to be paid. Tasks need to be done. And in that space between survival and meaning, INFJs often feel emotionally stuck. The present moment can feel like a trap, not because it's bad, but because it doesn't feel like enough. INFJs are future-oriented. They often see how things could be better, how they could evolve, how others could grow. But when they're not moving toward that vision, they feel restless. That restlessness can look like dissatisfaction, indecision, or even depression. It's not that INFJs are ungrateful, it's that they're wired to want something deeper. Something that feels aligned with who they are inside. When they can't find it, that feeling of being trapped intensifies. It's not about location or status, it's about purpose. What INFJs need in these moments isn't quick advice. It's connection, direction, time to reflect, and a safe space to explore those inner longings. When they feel seen and supported in that journey, the anxiety softens, and they begin to move again. Living inside the INFJ mind is like living in two worlds at once. One is quiet, thoughtful, and deeply intuitive. The other is loud, chaotic, and often overwhelming. INFJs feel everything intensely: ideas, emotions, people, purpose. That depth is a gift, but it can also feel like a burden. If you've related to any of the ways shared in this video, you're not alone. These aren't weaknesses. They're signs of a mind that works differently, one that processes life in layers most people never see. Yes, INFJs struggle with racing thoughts, emotional overload, and perfectionism. They bottle up emotions, feel out of place in crowds, and get stuck in existential loops. But they also bring compassion, vision, and insight to everything they touch. If you're an INFJ, the key isn't to fight your mind. It's to understand it. Create space for your emotions. Set boundaries that protect your energy. Find people who speak your language, the rare ones who get you. Because when INFJs feel safe, seen, and supported, they thrive. They become the quiet leaders, the creative thinkers, the friends who make others feel deeply understood. So if the INFJ mind sometimes feels like a trap, remember, it's also a sanctuary. With the right support, it becomes a place of power, not pressure. Thanks for watching, and remember, being different isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you were meant to see the world in your own way.